Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. 2023 has proven to be the best year in history on the legal front in the world of crypto, and obviously especially for we here in the XRP community, because XRP is the only large cap cryptocurrency on the entire damn planet that has legal clarity in the United States. I'm sure about all of you have heard by now the news also yesterday, Grayscale defeating the SEC in their legal pursuit, having to do with the spot Bitcoin ETF. Not that they're necessarily going to get to the ETF specifically as a result of what happened yesterday, but it's certainly heading that direction regardless. And today we have another win in the world of crypto. There's a class action lawsuit against Uniswap, so this isn't specifically with the SEC, but this was thrown out, and this is substantial. For a number of reasons. First of all, the way that I'm looking at this, especially once you understand what was being argued in the perspective of the judge, this type of thinking, it just further cements XRP's legal clarity from an intellectual perspective. If you're just thinking through what the hell is XRP, it's computer code, right? Well, there are arguments and understandings of that in this case as well. And by the way, I wanted to mention this at the outset. The judge in this case, throwing out the Uniswap class action lawsuit, is the same judge in the Coinbase lawsuit. This is not a good sign for the SEC, and already there are indications that this judge not exactly on the side of the SEC's arguments at this particular point in time. So it's fantastic, and although this most recent decision from the judge today doesn't technically create any sort of legally binding precedent, of course, it does create a tonal shift. Every time something like this happens, makes major news, the understanding of what a cryptocurrency is, what cryptocurrency exchanges are, it just gets cemented. And obviously, anybody who's unbiased with half a brain would come to the conclusion that we here in the XRP community have already come to, right? And so it's just more proof that unbiased parties, when considering the facts of such lawsuits, they do not find that the asset or computer code itself is a security or illegal in any way. And that's why I say again, this type of behavior is just cementing the fact further that XRP obviously is not a security in and of itself and does have legal clarity, and deservedly so. So I'm going to share with you the specifics here. I've also got some initial comments from attorney John Deaton on this. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. And by the way, this is the same district that the Ripple lawsuit occurred in, Southern District of New York, with Judge Annalisa Torres. So anyway, here's a headline from the Daily Huddle. Judge overseeing SEC's Coinbase lawsuit dismisses class action against Uniswap. A judge for the Southern District of New York has tossed a lawsuit against decentralized crypto exchange Uniswap. The lawsuit alleged that Uniswap enabled the trading of scam tokens that ultimately caused damages to unsuspecting investors. The judge's ruling stated that Uniswap's decentralization makes it so that there is essentially no discernible defendant and no identifiable law being broken due to the lack of regulatory clarity in crypto. And so check out this quote from the judge. I love this because it hits the nail on the head. And also, I just, when you see a lawsuit like this against Uniswap, it's just the epitome of frivolous. And so check this out. Here's what the judge said. Due to the protocol's decentralized nature, the identities of the scam token issuers are basically unknown and unknowable, leaving plaintiffs with an identifiable injury, but no identifiable defendant. Undaunted, they now sue the Uniswap defendants and the venture capitalist defendants, hoping that this court might overlook the fact that the current state of cryptocurrency regulation leaves them without recourse, at least as to the specific claims alleged in this suit. As set forth in the remainder of this opinion, the court dismisses their complaint in full. End quote. So I love that. And you know what? One of my favorite things highlighted there would be the fact that the judge is recognizing an insufficient regulatory environment here, stating that cryptocurrency regulation leaves them without recourse. Again, at least as it pertains specifically to the allegations in this suit. Well, I'm sorry, what was that Kim Jong-uns were saying about everything is very clear, everything very clear. Shut the hell up, Kim Jong-uns. And then they also go on to cite at the end here a quote from the same judge The judge's name is Catherine Polk-Fila. And I and I highlighted this earlier in the year, however many months ago this was. This judge really bringing the heat to the SEC as it pertains to their allegations against Coinbase specifically, because those allegations are also absolutely absurd. And here's what Judge Fila said in the SEC the SEC and Coinbase lawsuit earlier this year. Quote, "I am not saying that the commission should be omniscient at the time it's evaluating a registration statement and that it should know all things. But I would have thought the commission was doing diligence into what Coinbase was doing, and somehow I thought that it would say, you know, you really shouldn't do this. This is violative of the securities laws, or we are kind of in some interesting uncharted territory here with respect to whether the assets on your platform are securities, so be forewarned that maybe someday there could be a problem," end quote. And so this is, again, it's common sense stuff. You know, I don't have a legal background, and the vast majority of you listening don't, although certain attorneys would be listening, of course. I understand that there are attorneys, obviously, in our community and in crypto, broadly speaking, but most of us aren't. Now, what I'm saying is you don't need to be an attorney for this common sense to just immediately strike you. Because the SEC, in approving the Coinbase IPO a couple years back, they were aware of Coinbase's business model. And so the SEC is trying to make this slippery argument. Well, you know, it's not us for us to know the ins and outs of everything that Coinbase is doing. It's not that we gave absolute approval of every single business activity, and then they started suing the crap out of them. But the judge is saying, well, that doesn't make any damn sense. It was just a couple years ago, you asshats. And now I'm paraphrasing. and she's pushing back the same things that we were talking about. How dare you go after Coinbase making these allegations, and you knew full well what their business model was. Absolutely they did. And if there's some sort of potential problem to this degree that just 2 years later would bring the SEC to bring such a suit, then SEC, you should have said something back then. You should have prevented this IPO from even going forward. And this is a big deal too. So obviously Coinbase is on our side. They relisted XRP. Fantastic. Love to see it. We want Coinbase to do well. And this is a monumental case here. Because if Coinbase is found to have been... Because look, what they're doing here is they're trying to destroy the on-ramps and off-ramps to crypto. Because if what Coinbase is doing is illegal in the United States, then what every exchange in the United States is doing is illegal. Because they're listing things that allegedly are unregistered securities. Which is already a tired argument, but still. If they actually were found to be successful here in this lawsuit, it would be rather devastating. Now, I don't think that's what's likely to happen here. I really don't. But if that is the case, my gosh. And so anyway, that's why it's so good to see this, because it would be so negative for XRP and every crypto that you freaking hold if this doesn't go well. Utter destruction. I can only imagine the spiral that this would send global crypto markets in if this case doesn't go. It's another big one to that degree, just like the SEC v. Ripple case. And some argue, in fact, I don't want to put words in John Deaton's mouth, but I'm pretty sure it was him that was arguing that perhaps the Coinbase lawsuit is even bigger because it has to do with on-ramps and off-ramps. I think that's what he said. Apologies if I'm mistaken. I could have sworn it was him that said that, though. And then there was also this. There's somebody named Marvin Amori. He got retweeted by Fox Business journalist Eleanor Turret. But there's this part highlighted right here. If you're looking at the screen here, I'll make this full screen for you. That it's just common sense. It's sad it has to be said here. But here's what the judge wrote. The court sees, and so this again is in the Uniswap lawsuit that just got thrown out now. The court sees merit in defendant's counterpoint that this case is more like an effort to hold a developer of self-driving cars liable for a third party's use of the car to commit a traffic violation or to rob a bank. Okay, now that's spot on. So technology is created. People can do bad stuff with technology. Do you go after then the creators of the technology? So like people do something bad with the internet. Do you go after creators of the internet? Do you try and go back that far? Although good luck, because technically it dates back to the 60s, but you get the concept of what I'm talking about here. Pick any technology, though. Pick the iPhone specifically, smartphones in general. Pick any technology. It doesn't matter. They can be used for bad things. And that's the same thing here. So imagine, this is what the judge is saying here. She's agreeing with the argument made by the defendants. Imagine that you're a developer developing technology for self-driving cars, and then somebody does something bad with that self-driving car utilizing that technology, maybe robbing a bank. Is that the developer's fault? No, it's the person's fault that did the bad thing. And it's the same with crypto in general. People can use cryptocurrencies for bad things. They can use fiat currencies for bad things. Then you go after the people that do the bad thing. Duh. That's why I said this is like frivolous. It just seems like a money grab to me. And so here is what Attorney John Deaton had to say. He shared a quote first from the ruling today, which reads as follows. Looking at the allegations in the FAC, it defies logic that a drafter of computer code underlying a particular software platform could be liable under Section 29B for a third party's misuse of that platform, end quote. And then he notes that that's Judge Fila, same judge in the Coinbase case, and he wrote emphasis on defies logic. And then he wrote, read this language from Judge Fila. And then he tagged Paul Graywall and Brian Armstrong. Paul Graywall, Chief Legal Officer at Coinbase. Brian Armstrong, of course, co-founder and CEO of Coinbase. And he says they should feel good right now. And yes, they should. And then he says, I honestly could see her saying the same thing about not extending federal securities laws to asset sales on exchanges in blind bid/ask transactions. Now, that would be good. And in fact, on the topic of like whether or not since Uniswap cases went by, could that happen in the Coinbase lawsuit? Could it actually just get chucked to the wayside here? Well, here is what Attorney Deaton had to say on that. And he referenced Scott Melker, who is known as the Wolf of All Streets in the world of crypto, 909,900 followers. And he referenced Scott Melker, and he wrote the following specifically about Coinbase, since again, this is the same judge, and this is highly consequential for all of us. Today on Scott Melker's show, I said there was a 20 to 25% chance Judge Fila dismisses the SEC's complaint or partially dismisses, leaving the staking issue, ruling that Howey is inapplicable regarding secondary sales of digital assets on an exchange in blind bid/ask transactions. In short, the SEC does not have jurisdiction over these types of transactions. Normally, I would say there's no chance or a 1% chance for success with a motion to dismiss. I have to read this decision, but my 20 to 25% may have just jumped to 35% with this decision. And so he's saying here, the odds, if you just read into what Judge File here did with Uniswap, it makes him more confident that perhaps, and he wants to, read the whole thing here first, but perhaps a good bit more likely that you're going to see the whole Coinbase situation just chucked to the wayside, which would be the most delightful thing that could possibly happen. Because those are the biggest things. Now, so for us here, obviously, XRP having legal clarity, yes, of the utmost importance. But if you have that in conjunction with clarity for exchanges, that's pretty much it. Those are the big ones. And I believe firmly that's what's going to happen. And then after that, so that's I say big ones in terms of like survival and being allowed to exist. But then if you want to talk about, it's adding more to it, add it on the pile. There's all the BS lawsuits having to do, or not BS lawsuits, but the BS delays and denials of spot Bitcoin ETFs resulting now in lawsuits, specifically from Grayscale, which again, they just won yesterday. Once you get that spot Bitcoin ETF, even if the SEC is basically, whether literally or in all practical purposes, as long as it happens, having all those things together, like, that would be the trifecta effectively, right? That would be it. Legal clarity for XRP specifically, exchanges are good to go, and a spot Bitcoin ETF. So money pouring in, including on an institutional level. Yup. Thank you so much. I will take two. And that's what we've got to look forward to. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.